Okay, so we're in Yalkut Yosef, the books on brachot and blessings. Right now, we're in the guidance about concerning who can perform netilat yadayim. So we're talking about netilat yadayim, washing hands. In this case, for bread. So who can perform netilat yadayim? Any person can perform the act of netilat yadayim for his own hands or for those of someone else. Even a deaf, mute person, someone mentally deficient, or a small child may pour the water on someone's hands, although these individuals are exempt from fulfilling the mitzvot. So, two interesting things. So, number one, that even people who are not perfect in their ability to function and are actually exempt from doing these things themselves, they can pour the water on somebody else's hands to help them fulfill the mitzvah of netilat yadayim in order to eat bread. Also, I learned that someone who is deaf and mute, someone mentally deficient, or a small child are actually exempt from doing these things themselves. But it's they're exempt. They're not technically required, but like especially like small children and things like that. Uh, People like to train children young, but really min hadin, it seems that they're exempt from min hadin means really like technically speaking, like honestly, they don't have to. When one person pours the water on someone else's hands, at least one of them should have in mind that this act is imperative, that this act is innate for them in order to be able to eat bread. So you can't just like splash each other with water and then say, oh, technically we did netilat yadayim, so now we don't have to wash in order to eat bread. No, you have to just have in mind, just at least one of the people has to have the understanding that this is in order for them to eat bread, either the one pouring or the one having their hands washed. There's a note that says that it's imperative for the persons whose hands are being washed to have the proper intention. So this is kind of obvious. If someone else is pouring water for you to wash your hands, of course you're gonna have that intention. It's permissible to have a child pour the water on one's hands, even if the child is younger than 6 years old. Even if it's a very small child who like really doesn't hardly understand anything, you can have that child pour the water for your hands. After he pours the water, the adult may recite the blessing of Al Netilat Yadayim. So we understand that this is a full-fledged, completely fine way to do it. And the evidence is that we can say the blessing, so that's a testimony that it's really completely kosher. In this case, the person having his hands washed must have in mind that this act he will be able to eat bread. So going back again to that one, at least one of the people has to have the intention that this is to eat bread. If the only person who is able to have intention is an adult and the other person is a child, then definitely the adult who's getting their hands washed needs to have the intention. And what are we talking about? We're talking about like pouring water from a vessel onto the person's hands. The person can hold their hands out like this, and the other person is pouring the water. It's really not a situation that happens frequently, but it can happen. So these are very kind of in the weeds of getting into all the details. It is permissible technically to have a non-Jew pour the water onto a Jew's hands, but it is best to avoid using a non-Jew for this mitzvah. It is certainly permissible to have a non-Jew fill the container and bring it to the Jew, who will then perform the netilat yadayim himself. If someone avoids this as well, he will receive a special blessing from heaven. So this receive a special blessing from heaven line is repeated a lot in this book. The way I read this is the way I read whenever I read this line is that really technically it's okay, and this book guides people to be to take a more strict approach, that even though it's not technically the min hadin from the halacha. So yeah, so that's what this book guides people a lot, and you have to kind of be aware of that. So whenever I see he will receive a special blessing from heaven, I say, okay, that's interesting. What's the halacha? Halacha is that it's fine for a non-Jewish person to facilitate this mitzvah of netilat yadayim. Excuse me. Okay, so let's stop there and let's go to Rabbi Nachman's Kitzur Lekutey Moharan. This is a wonderful book. It takes Kitzur Lekutey Moharan takes all the very, very deep lessons from Rabbi Nachman's main book, Lekutey Moharan, and it gives the practical advice. The Kitzur is like for the working person, the person who doesn't have so much time to sit and really understand and learn and follow all the lessons of Lekutey Moharan. They have the Kitzur Lekutey Moharan to really draw out the advice from Rabbi Nachman's lessons in Lekutey Moharan. So starting at Torah 279, and my mouth spoke when I was in trouble. Okay, there are people whose Torah teachings are extremely wide down below, insofar as they greatly expand and enlarge upon the matter they're discussing. It means they explain things a lot, and they really go into detail with a lot of explanation and a lot of description. While up above, their teachings are really quite short, since up in the realm of holiness, nothing but a tiny spark remains of it. So on earth, when they teach, they have a lot of explanations and they go on and on and on. But really, up in heaven, in the spiritual world, this teaching, even though they spent a lot of time speaking about it, this teaching is actually very short. Because why? Since up in the realm of holiness, nothing but a tiny spark remains of it. So they go on and on in this world with a lot of explanations and details and really describe their teaching. But in the world of truth, in the world of holiness, the teaching is very short because only a tiny spark remains of it. Only like it was a lot of, they were saying a lot of, I don't want to say nothing, but they were saying a lot. And really the only holiness was a little bit of holiness. Conversely, the true tzaddikim teach Torah lessons, which down below appear to be short. But up above, these teachings are extremely wide and great. Fortunate are they. Tzaddikim, true, holy, righteous people. They can say a lot in a few words. They can say a few words that are so deep and have so much meaning that in heaven, these teachings are massive. These teachings can be expounded and explained and have so much holiness and so much depth, even though on earth, when they came out of their mouths, it was very short and concise. So Rabbi Nachman is making people aware that not all Torah is created equal. My voice is going a little bit, so we'll end here for today. Be well.